All right, welcome back. So we are going to now journey into the next part of the political chapter here. So where the lawmakers that we saw in the first part began to actually move into what could be a position of power, which is now what threatens sort of the other side, I guess, which was happy with being under Soviet domination for cultural reasons, or were scared of becoming trampled underneath the next, the free independent country of Estonia. Because they enjoyed maybe some cultural privileges under Soviet rule, were now afraid that it would turn the tables and there'd be all this vengeance from the independent Estonians against maybe some of the Russians that still lived within the borders. Excuse me. So let's watch a little bit of the political story, and then we will come back to the music that surrounds the next chapter. But in this chapter, you'll see some scenes that look a lot like what happened last night with the storming of the U.S. Capitol building. So that idea that then the people that were part of Interpol, okay, this group that sided with the Soviet rule, now wanted to make sure that this new government wasn't formed and wasn't successful. So they wanted to stop the government from working, which was kind of what was going on last night. They wanted to take people hostage within the lawmaker population to then seize the country back from Moscow. So let's take a look at what that looked like and how it ended quite differently from how the standoff, if you will, ended last night here.
In February of 1990, the newly registered citizens voted for an alternative governing body called the Congress of Estonia.
There's a referendum within the country.
In March, the Congress of Estonia met for the first time. Moscow wasn't happy, but Gorbachev's new policies made it nearly impossible to prevent the Congress from meeting.
Eesti Vabariigi kodanike
under international law. Therefore, many representatives felt that the Congress of Estonia was, in fact, the legitimate governing body of the country. But
so they're establishing themselves as the governing body.
To intervene and crush the movement and Moscow to intervene and crush the movement.
So after much debate, the Congress of Estonia decided it would not declare any official authority. At least, not yet.
So, even though they were elected by referendum, they're continuing to just chill in the background and try to create
the hundreds of thousands of Russians living in Estonia saw the writing on the wall. They stood to lose the privileges that they had enjoyed for decades if Estonia moved towards independence. Hostile protests.
So now we're going to see the chapter where Interpol comes into play, which was sort of the counter revolutionaries. They wanted to maintain their connection to the Soviet Union. I just skipped over a little part of it where they mentioned that about the entrance of Interpol into this discussion to try to seize government and not allow it to go forward into independence. Oh, sorry. This documentary tends to lump ethnic Russians and ethnic Estonians together. It looks that way, at least. It's not true. It wasn't completely ethnic Russians versus ethnic Estonians here. There were ethnic Russians that were part of this independence movement, who there was Russian being spoken within it. I don't want you to get the impression that it was a cultural all-out war here. It was people working for ideals versus people that wanted to maintain the status quo.
I remember they had really big gatherings at public places, which were really scary to see that there are so many people in numbers who are against the independence. There was a feeling that they are a really strong threat.
Вы почему пришли на митинг?
Поддержать единство всего народа.
Защитить от кого?
От кого? Ну, русское правительство правильно разговаривало с русскими и правильно решали вопросы все. Эстонцы очень хитрые люди. Они с вами говорят очень хорошо, си-си-си-си, а поза глаза нож держат в грудь.
Sort of like
вот какие эстонцы.
What the dialectic has become in the United States of name-calling.
In May of 1990, the Estonian Supreme Council made it illegal to fly the Soviet hammer and sickle flag. An angry Gorbachev publicly reprimanded Estonia for violating Soviet laws. The very next day, Interfront protesters marched on Toompea, the capital of Estonia. They shouted a list of demands, including the restoration of the Soviet flag and the resignation of the Supreme Council.
Me olime suhteliselt muretud, sest senised intrid igasugu mindi laiali, lehvitati punalippe ja karjuti maha eestlasi ja kõik ja sellega asi lõppes.
These are the ones that want to arrest government, basically. Take government into
But this demonstration was different. The hostility was escalating, and for all intents and purposes, it was starting to look like an attempted coup.
So the gates crashed down last night. This is basically the parliament building there, the palace where these legislators are meeting. Try to lay the groundwork for in Estonia. These are the counter-protesters.
Потом там могло произойти столкновение, это элементарно могло произойти, потому что, во-первых, к людям толком никто не вышел, их требования никто не захотел слушать. Но потом нашлись горячие головы, которые стали эти ворота трясти там и прочее.
So this is where you can see things that look a lot like last night going into the halls of government in order to create a
They were shouting, they were climbing into windows, they were dragging down the Estonian flag and so on.
Eventually, the crowd broke through the gates and found themselves in the courtyard, ready to storm the building and take officials hostage. Word of the attack spread quickly, and Prime Minister Edgar Savisaar got on the radio to inform the public.
Ülemnõukogu ja Eesti Vabariigi valitsus kutsuvad rahvast valitsushoone kaitsele Toompeale. Interrinde ja töökollektiivi töönõukogu jõugud on Toompea lossi sisse piiranud ja seda rünnatakse. Kordan, Toompead rünnatakse.
It was assumed and understood that they would be peaceful and not
Within
violent.
minutes, thousands of Estonians flocked to defend Toompea.
Unarmed.
Interfront was now trapped within the courtyard, with no way out except through the Estonian crowd outside.
But it was really a tense situation because everybody thought that now the first violence starts. If it goes violent, there might be a big problem.
So this is where now those Interpol members that were in the courtyard
It seemed that
only get out
violence
through that
was
crowd
inevitable.
of independence activists. It seemed like there would have to be violence.
But the Estonians remained level-headed. Eventually, the crowd parted, allowing a column of Interfront members to run the gauntlet and retreat.
So without touching
And
them,
in
they
this
allowed them
situation,
to
the
come
Estonian
out.
crowd kept very calm, very cool. For me, it's the real value, the real symbol of this Estonian type of making politics, making it calmly and without blood, but making it so that you will have your objectives, your aims to be fulfilled.
So there you have it, sort of the assumed peaceful mindset and the dedication to democratic discourse to solve problems that way. Now, when you get into a direct clash with each other, how to respond to that, we'll go back into that unity. You know, lock arms to let people escape freely. So I hope this has been informative for the beginning of your understanding. We're going to get into some more of the music now as we get into 1991, and we look at what then constituted these new countries that were going to be able to reemerge. Who gets to decide what they look like, and how does this active resistance through music carry into the identity of these nations?